It might seem, as you read, that ours is a story of love. It's not. Ours is a tale of murder.
That line, I mean, it just stops you cold, doesn't it?
It does, completely.
It's not just a clever hook. It's a promise to the reader. It's fundamentally reordering the reality you're about to step into. It's saying right from page 1, do not trust the romance.
Right.
Do not trust the flowers. Do not trust the apologies. You aren't watching a love story unfold. You are watching a crime scene being staged.
Exactly. It's like the author is handing you a pair of X-ray glasses and saying, look at the bones of this relationship, not the skin. And that is the source material we are just, well, completely dissecting today. We're looking at Ours is a Tale of Murder by Nora Murphy.
Yeah.
And I have to say, looking at all the research you've pulled together and the notes on the text, this isn't just a thriller. It feels more like a manual on the pathology of control.
It absolutely is. I think Murphy is doing something very specific, almost surgical here. She is taking a scalpel to this whole concept of suburban perfection.
That whole image.
Yeah. You know, the image we're sold. The big promotion at the law firm, the perfect diamond engagement ring, the freshly painted colonial house in a quiet cul-de-sac, the whole American dream starter pack.
Right, the stuff that looks great on a holiday card or on Instagram.
Precisely. But the mission of this deep dive really is to explore how Murphy just exposes the absolute rot underneath that image. We're going to look at how she constructs this argument through 3 very distinct but intertwining narratives.
Okay, so where do we start?
Well, first we have Clara and Troy, the so-called happy couple.
Which, as we're about to see, is a very generous description.
Yeah, happy's doing a lot of work in that sentence. Then we have Henry, the neighbor across the street, and I think the sources paint him as this fascinating subversion of the whole nosy neighbor trope.
Oh, he's so much more than just nosy.
Oh, Henry is a nightmare. He's a complete character study in entitlement. And finally, we have Mary.
Mary, the previous owner of the house.
Yes. The ghost in the machine, so to speak. She's haunted by this violent marriage and, well, a literal mystery in her own basement.
So we have the trap, the watcher, and the echo.
Yeah.
3 threads that just tighten and tighten into a knot. But before we get deep into the characters, I want to talk about the setting for a minute. Hawthorne Heights.
It sounds so idyllic, doesn't it? Hawthorne Heights. It invokes nature, elevation, a certain status.
It does. But reading through the notes on the atmosphere, the tension is there from page 1. It's not a slow burn at all. It feels like immediate friction. You have the surface level success, expensive mattresses, fancy dinner parties, rubbing right up against this reality of stalking, of isolation, of abuse.
And that friction is so intentional. It's the dissonance between what we are told to want, the house, the husband, and the price that the women in this book pay to get it. It's like biting into a pristine, wax-polished apple and realizing the entire inside is just full of worms.
That's a great way to put it. So let's start with that first thread. Part 1. The trap. Clara and Troy. Now, usually when we analyze a romance arc in fiction, we look for the meet cute. The charming accidental meeting.
Dropped groceries, locking eyes across a crowded room.
Yeah, exactly. And we technically have that here.
Yeah.
But it's the meet cute that wasn't. It's almost an anti-meet cute.
It is. Let's really unpack this scene because you're right. It sets the stage for everything that follows.
Okay, so they meet at a bar association event. Clara is a hardworking lawyer. She's there with her friend Heather. They're drinking, bad convention wine. And she sees this guy, Troy, staring at her from across the room. Now, normally in a rom-com, this is where the music swells.
Yeah.
But what is Clara's actual physical response in this moment?
It's repulsion.
Yeah.
And that is such a critical detail in the text. She doesn't feel flattered. She feels unsettled.
Where?
She notes his entitlement. Her amygdala, her lizard brain, the part responsible for survival, it is firing on all cylinders. She thinks to herself, that is the sort of person you are assured self-possessed. And she does not mean it as a compliment.
Oh.
She means it as a threat assessment. She is identifying a predator, even if she doesn't have the language for it yet.
But she ignores it. And why do you think that is? Why do we do that?
Because of the social contract, right. We are trained from birth to be polite. We are trained to override our gut instincts in favor of social harmony. If she were to act on her instincts, she would turn her back or just leave the event. But she stays.
She stays. And then the incident happens, the wine spill.
The accidental spill.
Yeah.
Troy bumps into her, or, he claims he was bumped, and red wine goes all over her expensive silk blouse. Now let's just pause and look at the power dynamics of that single moment.
Okay.
A second ago, she was the observer. She was judging him. Suddenly, she is the spectacle. She's wet. She's stained. She's embarrassed. She's instantly vulnerable.
And he steps in as the solution to the problem he created.
Exactly. He apologizes profusely. He offers to help. He pivots from creepy starer to charming, clumsy guy. It's a classic misdirection. But if you look at the text later on, we know this was all orchestrated.
He admits it.
He admits he targeted her. "She'll do," is the phrase he uses. It's so utilitarian. He didn't fall in love. He selected a target, and then he physically breached her boundaries to force an interaction.
It's unbelievably manipulative.
Yep.
He creates the chaos so he can be the one to bring the order. And the pursuit that follows is it's unrelenting. He shows up at her office the very next day.
With a gift bag. A replacement blouse.
Which is too small.
That detail keeps me up at night. Is it an accident? Maybe? Or is it a subtle psychological undermine?
How so?
It's like saying, here's a gift, but it doesn't fit you. Maybe you're not the right size.
Yeah.
It introduces this tiny little grain of insecurity. It makes her body the problem, not his gift. But the real masterstroke is the note he leaves with it.
"I couldn't bear to ask you to your face, lest you reject me to mine."
Weaponized vulnerability.
That's a really strong term. Can you break that down for us?
Well,
Why does that work on a smart, successful woman like Clara?
because he's playing directly on her social conditioning. If he asks her out face to face, she has the agency to just say no, especially since her gut instinct already dislikes him.
Right, she just shut it down.
But by leaving a note with a gift, he bypasses that immediate defense mechanism. He relies on her guilt. He makes it so that rejecting him feels actively cruel. He's framing himself as this shy, wounded puppy, knowing that Clara, who we know is an empathetic person, won't kick a puppy. He shifts the dynamic so that she feels obligated to comfort him.
And Clara's in a position where she's particularly susceptible to this. The text mentions she's alienated from her parents. She's fresh out of a pretty serious breakup with her ex, Adam. And the reason for that breakup is significant, isn't it? Yeah.
It's crucial. She didn't want kids, Adam did. So she's grieving a relationship that ended not because of a lack of love, but because of a fundamental incompatibility. She is emotionally raw. She's lonely. And Troy just steps right into that void and effectively says, "I am the antidote to your loneliness."
Which leads directly into the phase we now culturally recognize as love bombing. But in the book, it's described almost like an assault on her senses. It's overwhelming.
It is textbook love bombing. The speed is a massive, massive red flag. They are sleeping together immediately. Within weeks, they are spending every single night together. He dominates her time. He fills every silence.
He brings her coffee every morning.
Even if he gets the order wrong.
That's such a weird detail, isn't it? He brings the coffee, but it's not her coffee. Why do you think the author included that?
Because it's not about her. It's about him performing the role of good boyfriend. He's just filling a slot. He doesn't actually care what she likes. He cares that she acknowledges his gesture. It's performative care. If he really cared, he'd learn the order after the first time. But he wants credit for the act, not for the accuracy.
And Clara does notice this, doesn't she? I mean, she's not completely oblivious. She has this internal monologue where she feels suffocated.
Yes.
She describes his attention as making her feel like a mother with very young children. Overstimulated. That is such a visceral, unromantic description for a new relationship.
It's the feeling of being consumed. She's describing sensory overload. A healthy relationship should feel expansive, like your world is getting bigger. Here, she feels like her world is shrinking down to the size of him.
But the most damning piece of evidence for me during this whole courtship phase is the umbrella incident. This is where the genre shifts from romance to a full-blown thriller in my mind.
Walk us through that, because it's such a specific cinematic moment in the book.
Okay, so Clara's having a terrible day. She's going to court. She loses a hearing. It's pouring rain, and she can't find her umbrella. She knows she had it. She's soaked. She's miserable. She's defeated. Her silk blouse is ruined again, which is this recurring motif of her being physically uncomfortable. And then who appears on the courthouse steps?
Troy. With the umbrella.
Her missing umbrella. He claims he just found it. But Clara has this sinking, horrifying suspicion that he stole it from her car earlier that morning.
So why would he do that? I mean, why create the problem just to fix it?
To manufacture dependency.
Exactly. If she has her own umbrella, she stays dry, she goes about her day, she doesn't need him. By taking it, he ensures that she is miserable and vulnerable so that when he arrives, he looks like a savior.
A hero.
He is literally engineering her bad days so he can be the hero of them. It's gaslighting 101. He makes her question her own reality. Did I lose it? While he is holding the solution in his hand.
That is terrifyingly calculated, and it works. She suppresses the suspicion because in that moment, she needs the ride. She needs the comfort. And this just sets up the pattern for the dismantling of her entire life.
It's a systematic erosion of her identity. I mean, first her career. Clara's a good lawyer. She's smart. She's talented. But then suddenly she fails to make partner at her firm.
Which completely destroys her confidence. That was her goal. That was her identity, separate from him.
And at the exact same time, Troy does make partner at his firm. And later, we learn that he basically forced his firm's hand. He bullied his way into it. So you have this stark contrast. Her perceived failure versus his aggressive success. He is rising while she is falling, and he is right there to catch her.
And then the ultimate trap, the pregnancy.
Clara, who was strictly on birth control, Clara, who left the love of her life because she didn't want children, suddenly finds herself pregnant.
The text calls it an accident. But looking at the umbrella incident, looking at Troy's character,
We have to ask the question, a man who steals an umbrella to manipulate a mood. Is it really a stretch to think he tampered with her birth control to lock down a wife?
I don't think it is.
I don't think so either. He views her autonomy as an obstacle. Her desire not to have children is just another problem for him to solve.
And his reaction to the news just confirms it. She's panicking. She's terrified. She feels like her life is over. And what does he do?
He proposes on the spot with a ring he has had in his pocket for months.
He's just waiting for the trap to spring.
Exactly. He uses her biological vulnerability and her career instability to box her in. He creates this narrative where marriage and family are the only logical safety net for her now. It's not a proposal, it's a capture. He's closing the gate on the cage.
And from the outside, to their friends, to her parents, it looks like a fairy tale. Successful lawyer marries successful lawyer, baby on the way. But from the inside, it's a prison.
And that's the brilliance of how Murphy structures this book, because right when we are feeling all of Clara's confusion and dread, she shifts the perspective. We go into part 2, the predator's mind. We get inside Troy's head.
And the tone just shifts completely. Clara's full of doubt, full of questions, Troy.
Zero doubt, absolute chilling clarity. He doesn't view Clara as a human being with a soul and her own desires. He views her as a solution. He explicitly thinks of her as the missing piece of his picture-perfect family puzzle. It's not emotional for him, it's architectural. He's building a life, and she's just a load-bearing wall.
And he admits to the surveillance, right? That's where we found that out.
Oh, yeah. He reveals that the chance meeting at the bar was the result of extensive stalking. He learned her schedule, he learned her coffee order, which makes the fact that he gets it wrong later even more sinister.
Why?
It means he knows what she wants, but he chooses to give her what he wants to give her.
It's power play.
It's all a power play. He treats dating like a military operation or a legal case. He gathers intelligence, and his internal monologue reveals how he actively manipulates reality. Remember that scene where Clara asks for space? She just says, I need a night alone.
And he just goes silent. The silent treatment.
He ignores her texts. He punishes her with a communication blackout. And then the next morning, he shows up with coffee and charm as if nothing happened. He is Pavlovian training her. He teaches her that asserting boundaries leads to coldness and anxiety, but compliance leads to warmth and rewards. He is literally rewiring her brain to associate independence with pain.
It's conditioning. But the old manifestation of this control, I think, is the house, the golden cage, as the notes call it.
The purchase of the house in Hawthorne Heights, this, for me, is one of the most violation-heavy moments in the entire text.
So they get back from their honeymoon. A quick elopement. Clara thinks they're going back to her condo. Just drives her to the suburbs, to a house he bought, without ever telling her.
Can you imagine the loss of agency in that moment? He has liquidated his assets, signed the papers, and moved their entire lives without her consent. He presents it as a surprise, but it's a fait accompli.
She can't say no.
There's nothing to say no to. They are married. The deed is done. He has literally moved the ground beneath her feet.
And she hates it. She realizes immediately that this house is an hour away from her job. An hour-long commute.
Which is completely by design. He wants to isolate her. He wants that commute to be so punishing that quitting her job feels like her idea, even though he engineered the circumstances from the start. He is physically removing her from her support system. He wants to be the only voice she hears.
And when she gets angry, when she pushes back, he just points to the luxury of it all. The Ritz-Carlton mattress.
I bought you the best sleep of your life. Why aren't you happy?
It's also, he's trying to transact his way out of abuse. He thinks he can buy her submission with high thread counts. But look at the finances of it. The house is in his name only. It's a premarital asset. If she leaves him, she leaves with nothing. He has built a wall around her, brick by brick, and convinced the world it's a castle.
And more importantly, convinced her that she's ungrateful for not loving it. That's the insidiousness of it. Look at this beautiful house. Look at this expensive mattress. What kind of monster wouldn't be happy here? He makes her feel like she's the one who's defective.
Okay, so that's Troy, the successful predator, the one that society applauds. But now we have to talk about the other predator, the one society rejects. Part 3, the Watcher, Henry.
Henry is fascinating because he serves as this really dark mirror to Troy. If Troy is the predator in the expensive suit, Henry is the predator in the hoodie.
He's the neighbor across the street, lives in his parents' basement, unemployed. He seems on the surface like a classic failure to launch stereotype.
On the surface, yes, but Murphy just twists that trope completely. Usually in these kinds of thrillers, the nosy neighbor is the witness, the one who sees the crime and helps the protagonist. They're sort of the benevolent eyes of the community. Henry is not that.
No, not at all. Henry is a predator in his own right. We find out he was fired from his IT job. He tells his mom it was just downsizing, but the truth is much, much darker.
He was fired for stalking a coworker, a woman named Lacey.
Yeah.
And the details are just skin-crawling. He went through her desk, he touched her lipstick. And the mints.
The mints.
He ate the mints from her drawer. It's such an intimate, bizarre violation. It's like consuming a part of her. It's oral aggression. He wants to take something that is hers and put it inside himself. It's a form of possession.
And he hacked her phone to find nude photos. But here's the absolute key to Henry's psychology. He feels that he is the victim in all of this.
Always. He thinks he was treated unfairly because Lacey was mean to him. In his mind, her rejection justifies his violation.
Exactly. He feels entitled to women's time and attention. And when they don't give it, or when they set boundaries, he views it as this great injustice that justifies his retaliation. We see this pattern in flashbacks, too. To college with a girl named Esther, and high school with a girl named Kelly. He escalates when he's rejected. He's a serial stalker in the making.
He collects women's discomfort like trophies. It's horrifying.
And now, his new target is the unhappy couple across the street. Clara and Troy.
He becomes completely obsessed. He watches their routine. He notices the way Troy grabs Clara's arm possessively. And interestingly, Henry identifies with Clara.
He projects his own loneliness onto her. He thinks, she's sad, I'm sad, therefore we have a connection.
Which is a complete and utter delusion. He doesn't know her. He's never spoken to her. But he feels entitled to save her, which really just means possess her. He creates this whole narrative in his head where he is her knight in shining armor, saving her from the bad husband. But he's not doing it for her. He's doing it to win the prize.
He investigates her. We learn he follows her to her OB/GYN appointment. He tracks her movements.
It's so incredibly ironic. Clara is being controlled by her husband inside the house, and she's being stalked by her neighbor outside the house. She is literally surrounded by men who view her as an object to be managed or acquired. There is no safe space for her.
And that section of the book ends with this terrifying breach.
Yeah.
Henry crosses the street. He introduces himself while she's gardening.
That moment when the Watcher steps out of the shadows, it's the collision of two very dangerous worlds. It's the moment the simulation breaks. Clara thinks she's just meeting a weird neighbor, but you, the reader, know she's actually meeting another predator.
It raises that question. Who is more dangerous? The monster you married or the stranger who's watching you garden?
That's the central tension of the second half of the book. Troy has the legal power. Henry has the element of surprise. Both are lethal in their own way.
Okay, let's pivot to that third narrative, the historical context for all of this. Part 4, the echo of the past, Mary.
Mary is the previous owner of the house Troy bought. In fact, she's literally packing up to leave as Clara and Troy are moving in. She is the ghost that Clara is replacing.
And there's this recurring sensory detail about a cat odor. Troy complains about it. Mary mentions it.
It's brilliant sensory storytelling. That smell represents the decay. It's the lingering trauma of what happened in that house that fresh paint can't cover up. You can renovate the kitchen, but you can't renovate the history.
Because Mary's story is a direct parallel to Clara's, right?
It is, almost beat for beat. Mary suffered through a decades-long violent marriage to a man named Ed.
We get this horrific anecdote about the bicycle. Their son, Owen, is just 5 years old. He falls off his bike, he's bleeding, he's crying, and Ed
forces him to get back on. Falling is part of learning, he says. But it's not about resilience, it's about dominance. He humiliates the boy in front of the entire neighborhood. He forces Mary to watch and do nothing. He is showing her, I control this boy and I control you, and your compassion has no power here.
It's chilling. And Mary describes her life with him as a riddle. She spent years just trying to anticipate Ed's moods, walking on eggshells.
Which mirrors exactly what Clara is starting to do with Troy, trying to avoid the tornado, as she calls it. The financial control is there too. Ed spent money on house renovations Mary didn't want, asserting his ownership over the space, just like Troy buying the house without telling Clara. It's the same script, just different actors.
But the real mystery with Mary is the basement. This is the part of the book that feels like a full-on Gothic horror story.
The he in the basement.
Yeah. Mary cooks dinner for two every single night. And she leaves a tray at the top of the basement stairs. She hears the door squeak open. She hears the toilet flush down there.
But here's the thing. At the same time, she's packing up Owen's room as if he's gone forever. She finds his old art, his notes from school. She talks about a blood-soaked night 20 years ago.
So we know a murder or something equally violent happened.
Yeah.
But someone is still living down there? Is it Ed? Is it Owen? We don't know.
And the ambiguity creates this palpable Gothic dread. She is living with the physical manifestation of her past trauma. She is literally feeding it every night. It's a powerful metaphor for how we keep our secrets alive. We feed them in the dark so they don't have to come up into the light.
It just reinforces this idea that the house is a vessel for abuse. Mary's story bleeds right into Clara's story.
The house remembers. The walls have absorbed the violence. When Clara walks in, she's walking into a crime scene that hasn't been cleaned up yet, at least not spiritually speaking.
Okay, so we've laid out all the threads. Now let's try to synthesize this. What is the big picture here? Part 5. Synthesis.
The overarching theme is isolation. I mean, look at all three of our main characters. Clara is isolated in the suburbs, cut off from her job and her friends. Henry is isolated in his basement, cut off from society. Mary is isolated in her memories and in her house.
Hawthorne Heights is supposed to be a community, but everyone is in their own little silo. It's the trap of suburbia. It looks peaceful, but behind every single door is severe dysfunction.
And no one intervenes because the hedges are high and the doors are thick. The very architecture of suburbia is designed for privacy, but that privacy also protects abusers. It creates a soundproof booth for domestic violence.
I want to go back to the comparison between Troy and Henry. I think that is the most incisive part of this book.
It's the core argument, I think. Troy is the socially acceptable predator. He wears the suit, he makes the money, he marries the girl. Society validates him as a success. He is a pillar of the community.
Right. On paper, he's a catch. Mothers want their daughters to marry a guy like Troy.
Whereas Henry is the socially unacceptable predator. He's creepy, he's unemployed, he lives with his parents, society rejects him. We look at Henry and we say, there is a bad man.
But their behaviors, their core motivations.
They're identical. Stalking, obsession, surveillance, viewing women as property to be acquired. Troy is just better at masking his obsession as romance. He legitimizes his control through the institution of marriage. Henry tries to do it through fear and voyeurism, but the impulse, the desire to own a woman, is the exact same.
They are mirrors of each other. Troy is what Henry wants to be, and Henry is the raw, unfiltered version of what Troy actually is on the inside.
Exactly. Troy is just Henry with a law degree and a better haircut. And that's why the eventual collusion between them feels so inevitable. They are recognizing the monster in each other.
And we have to talk about Clara's awakening. She doesn't stay asleep forever, does she?
No, she doesn't. And there is a specific moment where she is talking to her friend Zoe on the phone. Clara almost confesses everything. She says, I'm not okay at all. It's this tiny crack in the facade.
But then Troy calls.
He interrupts the moment. Of course he does. And Clara senses the tornado, as she calls it. She realizes that the health reasons she gave for quitting work were just a lie she told herself to accept his control. She starts to see the bars of the cage for what they are. She realizes that her happiness is actually a sedative she's been force-fed.
And that is the most dangerous moment for a victim of abuse. When they wake up, the abuser often senses that shift and escalates their control.
Because control relies on the victim's participation in the fantasy. Once Clara stops participating in the lie, Troy has to use more force, either psychological or physical, to maintain the status quo. The mask begins to slip.
Which brings us to where the source material leaves us. It's a complete powder keg.
It really is. The fuse has been lit.
You have Clara, who is pregnant. She's isolated, and now she's suspicious. She knows she's in a trap. Then you have Henry, who has made contact. He's crossed the street. He's inserted himself directly into the narrative.
Right. And Troy, who thinks he has won, he's arrogant. He believes he has successfully captured his perfect little family. And finally, you have Mary, who is leaving the ghost in the basement behind for the new owners to deal with.
All these collisions are imminent. You have the past, Mary leaving, the present, Clara waking up, and the external threat, Henry closing in.
It's a perfect storm of dysfunction.
Which brings us right back to that provocative thought from the very beginning.
Right.
The definition of love versus murder.
The book really posits that what looked like Lovetroy's intensity, his devotion, the umbrella rescue, was actually just the preamble to violence. It suggests that in this context, love is just a word used to disguise possession.
It makes you question every single romantic gesture in the story. Was any of it real? Was there any genuine affection there at all?
I think for Troy, strategy is love. Control is love. To him, owning Clara effectively, managing her perfectly, is the highest form of affection he can show. And that is why it is a tale of murder. Because that kind of love inevitably destroys the object of its affection. You can't squeeze something that tight without eventually killing it.
It's a really chilling thought. So here's the final question for you, the listener, to mull over. In a neighborhood where everyone is watching Henry watching Clara, Troy watching Clara, the other neighbors judging Mary, who is actually safe?
And maybe more importantly, what happens when the perfect husband meets the creepy neighbor? Because I have a feeling that confrontation isn't going to end with a polite handshake over the fence. They are two predators competing for the same prey.
I think you're right. It's going to be a battle of monsters. Well, that's all we have time for today. This has been The Deep Dive. Thanks for listening, and keep your eyes open. You never know who's watching from across the street.
Stay safe out there.